Hey my immortal nerds, it has been a while because honestly there just wasn't much to say. Still many of you asked me in the last weeks for new builds, the latest essences and well just more content. So today I will show you my latest PvP Firestorm build. A lot of utility packed with high speed and evasion, which is just a nice alternative for the current HOTA builds. You will need sets and essences for that, so I brought you my current challenge dungeon, Ereban and all-round PvE builds. On top, we will take a look at the new essences and the potential builds they can be used for. Let's play! First things first, I'm covering a lot of content in this video, so please use the chapters to get to your most required topic. I will explain a lot of stuff and mechanics and so on, but feel free to check the build summaries. So, I was bored playing with the HOTA build and Spartusk wasn't really impactful enough anymore. Plus, there were so many new essences to explore. But while testing all of the stuff, I was disappointed very fast. Nothing was really strong enough to compete with the current meta. And I was dying too fast because of the very close combat that is required for the current builds and the stuff. So someone reached out to me and highlighted sprint evasion, and I was back on the hype train. In the end, I found such a nice working combo that I finally found a good topic that was worth making a new video for. So take a look at my new best friend. I'm talking about the new set Wildfire Imperative. This set is really cool and it works with the Barbarian very nice. What it says, it's improving your Firestorm damage from 50 additional percentage to 70%. Then the 4-piece bonus, which is the key point of this set, creates a tornado that sucks in everyone at a moderate range over I say 3 seconds, I think, approximately, into the mid. So what you have here every 9 seconds is a skill that pulls all the enemies together and is a very nice control ability for the Barbarian. The 6-piece bonus is even better. Yes, it's only active half of the time, so every 40 seconds you get approximately 20 seconds of active time of this 6-piece bonus, like in Banquet, so nothing changes really much to the other sets Barbarians are using. But what you get here is that as soon as you trigger the Wildfire with a regular Firestorm, you get that wind improvement of every regular non-burn attack on every of your attacks. So everything, your primary, your dots, everything that is an attack and deals damage has now wind power. So as soon as you make someone burn and attack him with that 6-piece bonus in that time, every of your attacks gets a 70% damage bonus. So tell me which other set is improving your damage such greatly. The point is 20-second activation time. So when you charge into the enemies, it will activate once you proc the first Firestorm, so not while going there or anything. So on your first attack, you have a 20-second time to deal a lot of damage. And when you go back, because 20 seconds is like losing your HP, losing your Undying Rage, losing maybe the first shield, savior or whatever, you go back to heal. So you take your time to replenish and wait for the last 10 to 15 to 20 seconds to cool off. You go in back again and it's there again. So it's really a heavy damage boost set that has a nice control ability. And that control ability even gets a bonus of 3 seconds. So it's going down from 9 to every 6 seconds for that tornado. It's just really cool to annoy your enemies with that. So how do you trigger that Firestorm? This is the big question. I tested a lot around with different abilities and finally I got back to the base build Barbarians used in the past already. The combination of the Austlark helmet, which gives wind attribute to your projectiles. Then the Sundered Legacy, that is the very nice cooldown Berserker mode, which lets you inflame enemies around you. And the Shackled Fate, which pulls enemies to you, is a projectile, so can proc the Firestorm. With that combination, we got the Firestorm working, while two things are happening. First, we have additional triggers. It's not just the Sundered Legacy. So let's check the additional triggers. Gems playing a big role in here. We have the Roiling Consequence and we have the Stormvolt. Both gems alone can trigger a Firestorm. So for every one of you who's not a barbarian who wants to use this set, you do not have to rely on the different effects of your essences. You can proc the set with that combination of gems. Every 20 seconds you get that proc. You get by this the ability of adding wind damage to your regular attacks, primary attacks, to everything. But then you need something to hold it alive. So you need any kind of fire damage that you can permanently cast or use at a regular base to make that wind damage work and go into a Firestorm. But if you can provide it, but you cannot provide any additional wind damage to proc the first Firestorm, you can use the Stormvolt combination in here. For us Barbarian, it's especially cool, because what can we do with the Ostlock helmet that already gives wind damage to our chains? With the Roiling Consequence, we can cast that first tornado at the end maximum range of our chains. So when we go into the first battle, we of course pull the enemies to us, but in addition, at his origin where he stands first, we cast a tornado at that point, which is normally at the idle. So that's why we can initially pull an enemy to us, pull every other enemy into the idle and put them to one point. Then we can charge them and deal a huge amount of damage. So it's a nice combination, not just tornado on our point, tornadoes at the end of our chains is possible too. Okay, this is the core mechanic of this build. We have that whole Firestorm, a lot of damage, pulling enemies. The point is that would not be enough, because we would die really fast, and you can have a similar kind of damage already with the original Wrath Burgbreaker that has a huge amount of damage, or the hammer, right? The point is that you have now a tool to deal two different kind of utility knockbacks, to position the enemy, to collect them, to have a chance to be strong against higher ranked or at least higher resonance players. Those two things help you, but this is not enough. We need a third combination. We are an annoying, very annoying barbarian running around really fast with our sprint and wrath combination, so we go at max speed at all of the time, pulling enemies, putting them into firestorms, running around again, and we are doing that with the evasion rate of 30%. That means every third attack nearly is missing us. That can be anything. It can be a primary attack, it can be a cast, it can be a lot of stuff. So many of the directly casted stuns, yeah, we just go past them. It's pretty cool. You have to test it. You get a lot tankier with that evasion rate. And we get it from the shoulders, the broken grasp, which is giving us 20% already. Sprint is always at max. That's easy to achieve. And in addition, we take the endure evasion rating attribute, which gives us 0.8% for every nearby enemy up to a maximum of 8%. If you stack that to 4 pieces, you get, with every cast of sprint, and there's an enemy around you, a 10% additional evasion rating. So we go up to 30%. This is nice. And you can even combine it more with the evasion shield, which you can get when you evade an attack that would have landed you. It's a nice combination. And you can even add more shields like that shield where when you go onto 10% HP, you get an additional shield. There are a lot of shields here to do to make you even tankier. So that's what we want to be. We want to be tanky, and we do not want to build up a massive amount of armor, which is always a nice way to be tanky. We want to move smart, and smart means evasion, not reducing the attack, just not taking it at all. That's the best possibility here. So our sprint needs to be active all of the time. The best thing to do it is the Snowdrifter pants. It reduces the cooldown of sprint a lot, and the Snowdrifter is in the current metas that are played in PvP one of the best pants you could play. Why? Because it's chilling enemies around you. And when you play a lot with wizards, and a little bit of communication is needed. When you join into a battleground, check the rooster who's playing with you. Are you in a 4-man group with a wizard, or is there a wizard at all? Then try to move the groups. Try to get a wizard into your group. You can check him, of course, if he's really using the icy skills, but if he does, and if he's an ice mage, that pants will improve the gaming with a wizard a lot. You're dancing around your backline, you're dancing around the idol, he is freezing a lot and creating those fields, and as soon as you chill again an enemy, that enemy is again stunned by you, not by the wizard. So wizard stuns, you go there, he's stunned again, wizard stuns again, you stun again, and he's kind of a stun lock. It's pretty cool mechanic, and you get kind of every 2 seconds or something stun out of your enemy, and this can really help to bring down heavy enemies. So playing that pants is in Battleground very, very useful. If you don't have a mage in there, no problem, go with the Buried Talons. That just gives you flat 20% damage more. This is a nice pants as well. I like the Snowdrifter more because better cooldown of sprint and the possibility to make combos with wizards. Lastly, of course, if you have some spots left, Eternal Gear is a good thing. The sprint attribute that gives you an immunity to knockback, chill, and the slow is really nice. It is strive, definitely, so you will lose 70%. Out of that 12 you get, I don't know, 4% or something, and if you stack it, you have another 60% as max chance to evade that effect. When you think about it, it's stacked. So first the 30% evasion hits. If the skill gets past that 30%, then those 60% here evasion of a knockback, chill, or any immunity here comes in it. So this attack needs to get past this as well. So you see, the more different chances you have to avoid an attack, the more luck you can have to just come unscattered through all of that attacks. So it's still worth it. Nevertheless, I would go first for the Wrath of the Berserker. A little bit more attack damage is good in this case, because we are pulling enemies together and we can deal a huge amount of damage at that particular spot in the middle of the tornado. So the Wrath, 20% chance to trigger that, 10 to 30, 40, 50k, whatever your gear score is worth it. Go for that first. If you have the sprint, use it too. Lastly, we want to be tanky, we have evasion, we can still modify a bit for damage reduction. It's a nice and easy way to get it. With the Jolt set, we can get that beneficial effect duration, it's nice, but we can take damage taken from player gets reduced in this case. It's easy to get. 8 pieces on your legendary gear, already 8% less damage, and we can do the same on the sets, where we can get overall 2% on 6 pieces, 12% damage reduction from players. Means that is not strived. So from every player in the battleground, you get 20% less damage. It's a nice thing. You could go for player against damage against players as well, but if you want to be tanky, this can be a really cool thing. So that's the build. We move around a lot. We try to circle the idols. We try to pull enemies away, try to club them together. Every time we try to move with our wizards to have a good combination, a good sync, and just as soon as you see some wildfire progging, go into and go berserk. The other time, circle around, try to heal and try to annoy the enemies. You can actually take a good amount of damage with that combination, and you can deal a good amount of damage to the enemies, of course, if you charge in. It's a nice, all-round, fun-to-play build. Try it. So again, in short, build overview. What are we doing? Lacerate with the chains, projectiles, the wrath, fire, the sprint, and the undying rage, of course. Then we have Ostlak helmet to make our shackle fade. A firestorming, we have the snowdrift of a wizard combination, the broken grasp for the sprint, evasion of 20%, 2 main hand lacerate essences to give us damage and attack speed, while we want to club into that tornado that is created by us. Sundered legacy, we pull the enemies to us to make them burn, or we use the gems in here, the roiling consequence, to make it burn already when hit with the chains, and the falling thunder to boost all of the damage a bit while we primary attack with our bleed from the rending bite. Sets, 6-piece wildfire is a must, and a 2-piece Vithus to prolong our undying rage, of course. Gems, Battle Guard is nice to give us a little more survivability. Then the Roiling Consequence and the Stormwall is a nice combination. The new gem is very good as well. You can have a look at this, or the new 5-star, of course. Spiteful is good, another evasion. We evade primary attacks when we are under 50%, I think, of HP. That's cool. And the Starfire, again, when we pull enemies together and then land a Starfire with that heavenly damage into that pit, it's awesome. For the Paragon, you can go with Slayer. Slayer is really nice because it utilizes the different shields that we could have. So if you have a cat, if you have that evasion shield, if you have that low HP shield, all of that different shields that can be enabled for a classic barbarian playstyle, the benefactor as the bonus skill, you can do a lot with that shields. You can get immunity, you can get a higher shield. From this tree itself, you get a shield already. Nice stuff. On the other side, you could go with the classic Warden set here, size and speed and so on as well. It's a good thing too. Eternal Sprint and Eternal Wrath attributes, both are nice. I would say go first for the evasion perks and then for the Eternal attributes. That's it. To go for this new kind of PvP, which is nice for nearly every class. So I see very nice Firestorm wizards, Firestorm demon hunters. There's a lot of possibilities for those classes, even for monks and so on. Nice set to have and to have a look at. I think it's more a PvP set than a PvE because of the 4-piece bonus that does not help you really much in PvP. But to get this, you need to farm challenge innies because they give you the most set items in the shortest amount of time, in my opinion. I don't know if there are any statistics out there already, but I get a shitload of sets in there, so it's nice to do. And you need a good build as a barbarian to farm the wildfire set. I brought you, in my opinion, the best for that challenge innies currently, and it's a very nice Hota build. So let's look into this. We start with a freeze. We have the Frigid Grin that gives our cleave that whirling axis, and in combination with the Snowdrifter, which makes our sprint a chill sprint, we freeze enemies. Freezing enemies is nice because we get instantly with the chill already 50%, and once they are frozen, 30% additional damage from the 2-piece Endwinter set. And this is one of the core mechanics in here. So next, how are we doing our damage? We're doing it with the hammer combination. And we use the Sundered Legacy as a really quick ramp up of our hammer. And because we are not using that much other essences for the Wrath, we taking the essence with the best cooldown. So Sundered Legacy, moderate damage, Then we have the Renated Rage, which for every negative effect gives us additional damage for our hammer, and the Flicker Tone to deal these massive blows. Yes, slower cooldown now, but there's absolutely no problem for this build. So still go with it. And you see now with the freeze already, we're going in with the Cleave, we freeze everyone, and now our hammer is dealing already 30% more damage, and the Cleave already ramps up our hammer in combination with the Sundered Legacy. It's a nice combo. What we need for full damage here, of course, 2-piece Endwinter, and then we go with the 6-piece Banquet, which is nice. So many of you see the obvious benefit. We have a 45% damage boost plus crit chance of 25%, nearly always active because we are hitting so many enemies and have a large scale attack with our hammer, the Cleave and the burn behind us, so everyone gets hit. And we have that crazy nearly 20-second or 50 seconds without the Vithus dot that just instantly kills enemies and is even a good initial damage to bosses. Why can we do this? Why can we say no to Vithus? Because of enchanting, the new feature in the game which solves so many of our problems, because it's now easily possible to get the skill cooldown reduction on our set items. So I propose go for one set combination for PvP and one different set combination for PvE. At least those two sets, if you can manage somehow, because then you can put the one for PvP to player to damage to players or damage from players, reducing it, and the PvE set you can set to skill cooldown reduction. You can get overall 16% skill cooldown reduction from the set parts and another 12% beneficial effect duration from it, only from that 8 set pieces. And together with a jolt, maybe that gives you another beneficial effect duration on your legendaries. With some awakenings you might have, you can get easily to a point where you don't need Vithus in PvE anymore. And this opens a lot of damage potentials for the Barbarian. So we go with a 6-piece Banquet and 2-piece Endwinter. And that's the main core for the damage. I think you get the idea of the combination running through, hammering every 1 or 2 seconds on the enemies, heavy blow, and you can easily get to the max damage dealer in the dungeon. What gems do we need? Everything that produces damage. That's the point. I know some think the Mount Skull is not that good here because it has not a permanent uptime, higher damage potential, but not that great in the uptime. Still, it is good. So as long as you get damage gems into here, your build will work very good. Go with the 1-stars, maybe first Berserker or the Salads, and then work your way up to the 2-stars of Pain Clasp and maybe the Mount Skull and even the Fang if you can build it from any battle points, collected points or anything. Jade is very good as well. Your goal should be to get at least a bonus of 100% of damage. So 4 of these gems should be enough to make you into a real PvE machine. What you can do now, as we are chilling everyone anyway, we can boost this build very nicely with the Vengeance set. Of course, we get attack speed. This is good for doing primary attacks on bosses. You can get the damage to demons, which is sometimes nice, but the most crucial one is damage to enemies who are suffering from a loss of control. So every chill is a loss of control. Any slow is a loss of control. This is a potential 40% damage, only that single point, to improve your damage in PvE by a lot. Go for that. And that's it. Let's look into the build overview. We go with a Sprint Wrath combination to be fast here, of course, to get to enemies in a moderate time, because there are a lot of fast guys out there, and if you are not fast as well, you will see not a single enemy. But go for that. If you have any issues dying too often or something, you could change the sprint to an undying. So if you're in an early stage, want to just participate and join the dungeon, you can change that skill into an undying. And can work around with the pants a bit. But for everyone and usual setup, sprint, wrath, hammer, cleave. To get all of the skills working, we have the helmet as a little boost, the crew bask sneer, oh my god, to get additional crit chance. It's not stacking that perfectly with the banquet, but there is some stack and it will help you to kill easier. And then the whole damage from the hammer with the renitent and the flicker tone. We have the stonefall as a little boost on the main hand, because we do not need primary attack that much. We're just using some here and there on the bosses, but not that much. And we boost the damage by the skull mod, which for cleave gives another 35 additional percentage of damage to the party. So it's a big boost again for the bosses and for the challenge dungeons to improve your overall damage rating. Slinger Paragon works really nice here. Improves your damage. Just do a bit of primary attacks here and there. It's not that hard because most of the time you're anyway passive. So move, primary hammer, primary hammer, primary hammer, activate skill, primary hammer. That's kind of the whole point. The set's 6-piece banquet, 2-piece Endwinter to go to a max damage potential here. And for the gems, as explained, go for damage gems. Yeah, chance with the roiling is always nice. Otherwise get at least 4 damage gems. Painclasp, Fang, Mornskull and Jade is a very good combination to get to high resonance, but all of the different 1-star gems are very, very powerful too, and go for them first if you have them on rank 1. The Berserkers, the Salads, there are so much. Go for them, they are really, really good. One remark, and I'm not proud of it, but it's happening, the game has a bug. For the Endwinter set, it seems not to work properly on bosses. It states that the effect gets applied to bosses as well, even if they are not affected by loss of control, but they get marked, and that this effect then works. Still, it seems not to work. I already highlighted it to the Diablo Immortal developers, so let's see if they will solve it with an upcoming patch. Cool, you have all of your sets now. You have the 6-piece Wildfire with your required attributes of Fortitude, and you already can enchant everyone to get to the potential perk you need. Now, we need to look at the legendaries, because on that we want that evasion rating, we want evasion shield, we want a shield before we die, we want cool skills that help us, and you get them easily from the Ereban mode. Ereban mode gives you a guarantee that those legendaries have those perks on it, and then you can enchant them again. So, what do you need for Ereban? You need to be fast as hell, of course. There are some builds that are really out of your mind fast, but they are really exhausting playing it. So you can even check some older max speed builds I have provided. They are still good, they are still working with a leap included or any whirlwind dash to make you really fast. But then you get crazy after a few runs. So we want a full passive fast build where we do not go crazy. And you can go with that one, so check it out. We go on a full passive. We have first the Hell's Legacy because we want to use sprint, and we want to use the fire trail that we get from that sprint. That is applying all of our different dots that we will see later on in this build. We have the Clatter Steel. It's a hammer rain where hammer drops behind us on a regular basis, and the Jackal Fate with the chains that pull enemy to our location. This is the main damage dealing point of this build. Why is it working? Skull is giving 40% attack projectile attacks, which both of the mentioned one are. So chains are projectiles and hammer are projectiles. They both get faster by this helmet and being pretty annoying in PvE. Again, we go with Burying Talons. 20% additional damage for everything we do, and we do not want to run to enemies, we want to pull them to our location. This is only possible if our chains are fast enough, be casted enough to go to the one side and then the other side before we pass that enemies. And even if we miss some, they are trying to run behind us and going into our fire trail. So this is the mechanic to kill the enemies. For that, we need a good amount of damage as passive damage. Again, we go with without the Vithus. All of those skills and combination with essences have a very low cooldown. So we have the Grace as a 1 point, 50% damage, and that additional 50k hit after 5 hits already on the enemy. So let's lead to that heavy blow, and that will then at least kill the enemy. And we have the Banquet that gives another 50% for once we have a negative condition or continual damage on the enemy. And then we get that crit chance improvement of 25%. So many enemies of us around us suffering from our dots, we have that 25% nearly all of the time. We get that again with the enchanting of our sets. Means we want the cooldown reduction and the beneficial effect. With that we can get without Vithus. If you don't have them, you need a 2-piece of Vithus. Then you can say, I go only with the 2-piece Banquet and 2-piece Vithus. That's possible as well. Cool. For the gems, we want DoT Gems. DoT Gems are the main key for this set. So Torment is nice, Jade is nice, Viper is nice, Roiling Consequence is nice. And for the rest, you can use very cool 1-star gems or 2-star gems for damage, the Fang and other cool damage gems out there. Whatever it is for, if it is damage on continual damage, if it is damage on a loss of control, which we have, if it is damage on flat, whatever damage gems for the other ones. Okay, so build overview for that one, pretty easy. Lacerate with the Chains, Hota, the Wrath and the Sprint to go with the full passive mode. Passive mode acquired by the Shackled Fate, the Clatter Steel, the Sundered Legacy and the Hell's Legacy to deal all of that fire damage, dots and that trail of damage behind us to pull enemies to our location. Boosted with a Squirm Skull to give that additional attack speed of 40%. The Buried Talent to boost the whole damage, and the Stonefall here again to boost the Clatter Steel a little bit to let it deal more damage. Investing more on the primary wouldn't be useful here. We have a Rending Bite if we have a big mob at the end of I don't know, an Abyssal run or something, or if we find a yellow one or a red one in the open world, then we can use a Rending Bite hit here and there, it's good. For gems, DoT Gems are the one. We want Torment, Roiling, Jade, Viper and so on. A Void Spark can be pretty cool here, dealing that nice chain lightning that helps us. 4-piece Grace, 4-piece Banquet is ideal. 4-piece Baron could work too. It's because we have the Shackled Fate and a loss of control here with a slow from the Shackled Fate. The Baron 4-piece works pretty nice as well. I could not decide if I go for Grace or Baron. Grace, that additional hit is nice. Baron is good because of that 30% additional duration of your harmful effect. So every dot is like 30% longer. It's nice to make sure the enemies die, but maybe they die a bit later than by the Grace. So for the Paragon, you can go with the first one. It is a good boost of your gold find. Gold is more important now than ever with the whole enchanting stuff. You get additional drop chance for items. You can get additional experience, which is good for leveling, and a bit of damage in here as well. You can go for that. And for the specialization, go with the one where your dots when expiring are exploding. It's good every 10 seconds, yeah, but the other ones are helping not very much as well, so go with that one where the dots are exploding. It's a good specialization. After that, you have a lot of legendaries from Ereban, and you have a lot of sets already farmed, but there are still a lot of other PvE challenges waiting for you where you can earn better and even more legendaries and even more sets. We're talking about the hard content like challenge rifts, vanguard, or even raids where you want to go into a max performance build to get your stuff. So I brought you an all-round PvE build that is focusing on DPS, high primary attack DPS. So let's check out this build. It starts with and it's a flexible build, okay? You can You can alter it to your needs and to the different situation, but only with changing one essence or one skill to make it this all-roundish, okay? It focuses around the primary attributes and the essences of the Nature's Temper that deals additional damage on your primary attack, the Bug Breaker that and is damaging you, and then the Bug Breaker that deals that heavy AoE attack damage once you receive damage, which you're dealing to yourself through the Nature's Temper, and the Ardent Fervor, which gives you a huge attack speed bonus on your primary when you receive damage, which is already still happened by the Nature's Temper. So this is the core mechanic to boost your primary damage. We start with the DPS variant for the, for example, for the raids, okay, or for yeah, let's start with the raids. Squirm Skull, that gives you a huge amount of your attack speed on the primary and on projectiles. So in that build where we're using chains and so on as well, this is the first DPS variant with Sprint. It's a core piece to maximize your damage. After that, AoE focus for dungeons, for example, you can use this build in dungeons as well, is with a little change of the headpiece. We change it from the Squirm Skull to the Brace of the Ancestors. Squirm Skull is good because of the attack speed. We will miss that attack speed. It's a nice one. But for dungeons, we need more, especially for challenge dungeons, more damage output on many enemies. That's why the Brace of the Ancestor comes into game here. It changes our Wrath to make our primary attacks deal damage to everyone around us in this 100% same damage which was dealt to that one enemy. So with that, we can now pull all the enemies around us to us. We can hit one enemy, deal that damage around us. We have the Bug Breaker that with every primary attack damage deals that heavy AoE, and yes, with that you see there's a big damage potential to groups of enemies. Still, this is producing a lot of damage output to single target enemies. A bit less than the first one, definitely, but still a very, very good outcome. We boost that with the Harbinger. Harbinger is a nice paragon tree that helps us in here. First, we are fast because we have that sprint, so we can get additional crit chance with the sprint. And in addition, we go with the Sunder, which gives us that 30% attack damage boost, or make the enemies vulnerable, so we deal 30% more damage, everyone in our team as well. This one is a dash, and with that dash we can make full use of the Harbinger. We get that ambush, with that we get the crit chance, the 30% damage from the dash. And if you go with bosses or anything, you can go with this combination. If you go with dungeons, you can change one of the sprint crit improvements to the sand clock here that makes your Harbinger reset with every kill. So this means every single Sunder dash will proc that 30%, and by this you nearly have it all the time active. It's a good combination with the Overloaded that boosts your primary attack every, I think, 10 seconds or 20 seconds. This is nice. When you go to bosses, you normally have kind of a 5, 6, 7, 8 second cooldown or time to run there, and in that time mostly that skill gets up, so nice thing to improve it. Next, we will have some content that needs a heal, especially challenge rifts or the vanguard, where we cannot just force our way through it. It will deal less damage than the Bug Breaker, definitely. Still, it improves your critical hit damage a lot. So it's not like it's not bringing any damage. It will give you damage, especially with the combination of the headpiece, which makes your damage spread to everyone around you. And you will be an unkillable machine because of that life leech. You can go on with the sprint if you need to be fast, but most of the times you don't need it, so change the sprint to the Undying Rage to have a security line in here. This is especially good for the challenge rifts where you need to face a boss. There you need that Undying Rage because they're killing you, especially when you push a lot above your gear score. So take it, it just makes your life more easier. With that, you are unkillable and can permanently deal a good amount of damage. We do that with the sets of the Grace of the Flagellant and the Banquet, 4-piece for each, again with all of the perks of critical hit, of extra hit, of 30% additional damage. It's a really nice thing. We do this again with the enchant, so don't forget to enchant your stuff to get that skill cooldowns. It's very easy to get, and you just need to finally make a good use of all of the gold you have collected in the last year. So enchant your stuff. And yeah, that's nearly it. You can go through the 3 different phases of this build. Heavy DPS, little bit less DPS but crowd damage, and then even a little bit again DPS but survival mode. So those 3 variations of the build helps you to conquer nearly every PvE mode you have in this game. Looking at the build overview, I go with that middle variant now first, where we take a bit of AoE damage in here. The skills Chain, Spear, Wrath, Sprint and Sunder to be available to move and to use the Harbinger Paragon, which we are using here to go into that ambush. We use crit and damage gems here because you want the max damage output. So Roiling and Mother's Lament is really nice. Pankless Fang are really good. Wolfheart is nice because we still have a lot of different attacks we are dealing here and can use it for additional damage output. So if you're looking for a nice damage 5-star, Wolfheart is good. Otherwise, every damage gem out there is perfect. Okay, so essences. Core piece is the Brace of the Ancestors in combination with the Bug Breaker to have that Wrath active and deal a huge amount of AoE damage. It's crazy. Shackled Fate to pull the enemies. Ardent Fervor, Rending Bite to deal that permanently, even with Awakenings, which you should go for. Heavy primary damage output that then gets spread to every enemy around you. Falling Thunder, as our Rending Bite is bleeding, we take that 20%. Buried Talent, as we have the Shackled Fate already, we take that 20% as well. And Nature's Temper to proc all of the funny stuff, like the Ardent Fervor, the Bug Breaker, to make our damage really effectful. 4-piece Grace, 4-piece Banquet as the best way to go for it. Go for the Enchant if you can, otherwise the Baron could work too, but is not that good effective on bosses as they cannot get any loss of control in here. So I think this is mostly the best combination. There might be others as well, definitely. And go for the 4 of 4 Wrath AoE attribute. This is a huge improvement to your damage if you have this 4-piece equipped. It's a nice thing to go for. So now you're ready to go. You have all of your stuff. But wait, what about the latest essences? Isn't there something nice we could do? Okay, we have that Firestorm build now, but maybe you're still interested in what happened to all of the new stuff in here. I mean, 6 essences, what's about them? So let's check. Of course, I played all of them, I tried to figure out a build. There are a few videos out there, but not that much, as they are not that easy to master those essences. Still, there are some good combinations, don't get me wrong. My first initial decision was, what the hell? But now I'm getting warm with them, so I'm bringing you some of the videos here. First, we go with the demo tank. It focuses around the new Helmet Terror Unburdened, and then we burden the Unburdened Terror again with the burden of the nothingness. Yeah. Look at that naming. Okay, with that, we get a 35% damage reduction from the helmet, a 20% damage reduction for the enemies. So already a huge of tankiness. We can combine it with a Broken Grasp. Sprint, yes, Sprint, oh my god. We can get up to a 30% evasion rating now. So you have that crazy evasion, you have the damage reduction, and by that you get really tanky. Of course, that build is not controllable, okay? You will go to the idol, you will stand on the idol, you will defend the idol, and that's it. That's your whole point of that build. You're not moving around, you're not technically doing stuff. It's just a pure tank monster. So, many of you already experimented with that, and some people reached out to me and say, can I reduce the damage with other combinations to 100%? And I was like, it shouldn't be possible because a damage reduction cannot be stacked. Only the highest damage reduction is active. But a reduction of damage an enemy deals is a different effect, so it can stack. So as long as the wording gets different, you could stack them. So we asked the developers, we asked, is there a cap implemented to reduce the damage you actually receive? Any kind of combination, formula or something? And he responded, yes. 70%. 70% is a max reduction you can get on the damage you receive. So still 30% will hit you. So there's no chance for any low resonance player to avoid all of the damage from a whale or something. You still get 30% and will still kill you. But you get tankier, of course, with all of that stuff. And this is what this demo tank is about. Focus around the skill of the sprint, the chains, so you pull enemies to you, demo of course, and undying. So what you do is you go to the idol, you pull enemies to you, and you start hitting them like crazy and still pulling them. That's your point, and hopefully your teammates will kill them in the time, because you're not that damage machine or anything. Next, we have the Cleave essences. Cleave was very interesting too. It was the most promising essence, the Dread Desecration, that shoulder that makes you immune to any loss of control once casted and 0.5 seconds afterwarded. So you get kind of a free pass once you hit Cleave, and that's a good escape. It was combined with the Shardbreaker, the main hand that makes our Cleave a dash. Only 2 dashes, without a bleed, without a knockback or any effect. I don't know what they thought about it, but it's kind of useless. Definitely, you can engage now from the idle position the enemy's backline. You can dash into that and they cannot stop you in any way. True, but I don't know if that's the main idea behind it. The Lurker's Last Chance is better, where the Cleave becomes channeled. And every time you hit the channel, you get that immunity. So it's like you go into the idol, click it, you're free to go, click it, you're free to go, click it, you're free to go. But in that time you do not deal damage, and in that time you need to reposition a lot. Works, and it's kind of the best essence for this, still kind of clunky. Last one, Decolator. This one is pretty good. That 3 charges for this for the Cleave works nicely. Just the Decolator is not dealing enough damage. It's not good enough. And only the 3rd attack is a knock-up. Why not every attack of them? So all 3 are nice. You can actually play them. And it's working. They're not as effective as other essences maybe, but if you like the style, you can definitely do cool stuff with this. And the one I found the most or best working one, and a buddy of me from my clan Kelp played this and is pretty happy with that build. It's a Bug Breaker combined with the Lurker's Last Chance and the Screaming Fury, which is my little addition to it. So you dash into the idol, knock them up, channel because no one can stop you. If they stop you, just channel again, and that damage output from the channel with the seeds set which you need for it. Last new essence was a charge. We had that Reckless Abandon, that Furious Charge that now directly can target an enemy and jumps to his position, stunning them and damaging all enemies out there. So it sounded like an improved Furious Charge with the old pants. But yeah, it's too slow. So definitely too slow. You can combine it with the chest. The Furious Charge also shatters the enemy's armor. Again, it's now related to the enemy's potency, so for many of you this will not be relevant at all. And I tell you why it shouldn't be relevant for anyone. This essence is really not good. Take the old Tracker's Rage, the 20% improved damage chest, because with that the 4-piece Vithus now works again. Now you know all of my secrets. I know for my Firestorm build it feels awkward to not use Bug Breaker and the immunity shoulders, but give it a try. It's actually fun to annoy your enemies with that many pulls. even go with a vanguard maelstrom skill on the main hands and the weapons, or equip another more gem, lots of troll potential. And still, Firestorm proc has a huge damage potential, so you combine it. So I hope you enjoy the builds I showed you here in this video, and as always, reach out to me in the comments if you have any questions. Leave me a like and subscribe if you want to see more Barb content like this. See you soon, my friends.